and welcome to Tarmac. I'm Dave.
I'm Matthew, and we're out in the forest with the new Subaru Forester X Sport.
Damn it, you took my line. Anyway, he's right. It's the brand new 22 facelifted X Sport, and it's ready to go and ready to play. So let's take a look around this one. Now, the Subaru Forester actually came into production in 1997. This is the 5th generation, and also it's the 5th generation with a little bit more of a facelift. So what they've essentially done is limited or reduced some of the orange bits that some people don't like and given it a little bit of a sharper face. So looking around the front here, headlights are in a sort of, I don't know, dual level here, but the big thing here is the fog lights. They're a lot sharper away from there. The front here, the Subaru bonnet, the badging here, actually when you lift the bonnet, and I'll show you that in a minute, actually incorporates all of this top part of the grille, so it's actually quite funky. And then obviously a little bit more orange garnish around here, there and everywhere. So when they say they've limited it, they've actually kept it, but we won't go into that. Round the side. Now, as I said, when the Forester did start out, it started out life as a bit of a crossover, sort of a high-riding station wagon, if you like to call it. Now it's much more of an SUV, and has been that for the last couple of generations anyway. In terms of size, it's 4.6 in length, 1.6 in width, and 1.73 in height. So much of the back end is very boxy and tall. As I say, more orange garnishes here and there. This one is riding on 18-inch feet, which are like this nice glossy alloys. But the big thing is also a 220 millimeter ride height. So really, if you are going off-road, this won't drag its butt along the ground. So pretty good from there. Speaking of the butts, let's go around there. The rear here, there's actually plenty of sort of this hard plastic stuff around, and sort of gives you that sense of robustness, that little bit more of a sense of adventure, and that's exactly what this is about. More of like a rear windscreen wiper there to make sure your rear view is clean. I don't know what that means. More orange. So if you are into orange, this really is there. And also it is an electric tailgate. It's not a kicker, but there you go. And this opens up to around about 500 litres of boot space here. So, you know, not bad. Let's look under the bonnet. So there you go, look, this top fascia keeps the Subaru badge in place. Not bad from there. Anyway, under here is a 2.5 litre naturally aspirated, God, naturally, you'd have thought I'd have been out here and naturally. Anyway, flat 4 boxer that gives you 136 kilowatts, 239 newton meters of torque, so a little bit slight or a little bit light on the torque side of things, but it's also strapped to a, what are they calling it, a Lineartronic or something like that, CVT gearbox that does have 7 steps, so you can actually use the paddles. I'll show you that in a minute. But together, what it gives you, a fuel efficiency of 7.4 litres per 100 kilometers, so it's actually not bad. Speaking of things that have 7 steps and need pulling on paddles, anyway, Matthew's inside and he'll show you what's going on in there.
Right, so now that Dave started off on the 7 steps thing, let's take a look then at the 7 major talking points about the cabin. So number 1, undeniably, is all of that orange stuff. Firstly, you'll find it in the form of stitching along the dashboard there, stitching as well on the door cards. There's some orangey stuff on the steering wheel there, and there's also orangey stitching on the central armrest there and on the seats there. Speaking of the seats, number 2, well, they're sort of in this leatherette material with fabric in the middle, and this fabric is pretty special actually because it is stain proof. So Subaru have thought about, you know, a family or an outdoorsy person's needs. Quite smart thinking there. Step 3, I think that's the storage spaces in here, because this is of course a family SUV. You've got some decent sized door pockets. You've got storage space in the middle here for your sunglasses. Plenty of storage space for your 2 cups here. Space for a phone there. Some more space underneath here as well. And a good sized glove box as well. So Subaru have thought about the family, or rather what a family might need when it comes to a Forester. Now, number 4, as you can see, there's quite a bit of light in the cabin here, and that's thanks to this sunroof up here, which really does help with not only bringing light into the cabin, but just the general visibility as well. You'll also notice that the windscreen and the windows are really big, so claustrophobia really isn't a problem in the Forester. Well, number 5, the build quality. Subarus are known to be sticking around for quite a bit of time, so all the bits and pieces are generally quite well screwed together, and that's, you know, nice to see that it's a car that you'll be pretty confident will stand the test of time. Something that seems to cover all sorts of times is the infotainment screen. So let's take a look at number 6. So as you can see that the infotainment screen has got the touch bits to it, so the layout is really simple, some nice colors there to add a bit of life to it. Of course, Subaru do like their orange, as we've seen, so there's a bit of that on there. What's really cool though is the fact that you can operate it with these shortcut buttons and knobs here, so a refreshing thing to see that. In terms of audio, well, they've got you covered in all respects really. So you've got a CD player there, as you can see, a rare sight today. There's NFC connectivity, as you can see there. And if you look underneath there, there's both USB and aux. And of course, it does have Bluetooth as well. So really any generation of music instrument or rather music recording, it's got you covered completely. A lot of smart thinking there. There's some more manual bits as well in terms of the air conditioning controls. Those are all these little dials and knobs, and they've got a really satisfying click to them. So just listen to that. Nice. In terms of screens, well, this isn't the only one here. It's got one up the top there, as you can see. And now what that does is it's got the facial recognition scanner on it. So it kind of monitors whether you're paying attention to the road or looking out the window, and then will alert you to pay attention to the road. As you can see on screen there, it's also got things like the temperature outside and the fuel economy and the range as well. And then on the left side, you can see there's plenty more ways that you can customize the information that you see on this screen. So some really intelligent thinking has gone into that as well. And what's really cool is when you put it into reverse, you can see the reversing camera there, but there's also an alternative view up on the screen there. So you can see the tires and the sides of your car. So there's a lot of safety technology into this screen as well. Really smart from Subaru. Something else that's really smart and is number 7 on the list of things in this interior is of course that dashboard. So let's take a look at that. As you can see, the instrument cluster in front is outlined in orange there. The rev meter also says Sport to give you a little bit of an urge to use all of the revs available to you. The layout is nice and tidy, and you've got a third screen in the middle there. And what that screen does is show you your lane position on the road, and then a few other things like whether you're using automatic start stop or all the assist features that are available. There's also an efficiency bar at the top, which kind of tells you how well you're doing in terms of your liters per 100 kilometer efficiency. There's plenty of telemetry and information given to you here, so it is a really intelligent car all around. Anyway, if we take a step back from the instrument cluster and look at the steering wheel, you can see that it's got a nice sort of leather feel to it, some solid thumb grips, plenty of orange stitching as well. So there is a sporty feel to it. Notice that it's got these paddle shifts behind as well, which is quite strange for a CVT gearbox, but then this doesn't really behave like a traditional CVT. The buttons on the left side, you've got all the controls for your infotainment screen, and on the right side you've got lane keep assist and cruise control and steering assist, stuff like that. And then just below here you've got buttons that change all of the instruments, or rather what you see on the digital dashboard. So there's plenty going on and plenty of customization here as well. Well, the dashboard has Sport covered, as you can see there, but what about the X part of it? Well, it is a proper off-roader and it does have some extra modes. So let's take a look down the center. So while it does look a little bit busy here, Subaru have highlighted all the important stuff in orange coincidentally with this dial here. So as you can see, it says X mode. Now if you push that, it goes into normal mode. If you turn that to the left, well, you can go into dirt and snow mode. And if you're stuck in some deeper stuff, then you turn it to the right and you get the deep snow and mud mode. And doing this doesn't just turn a knob, it actually does something with the all-wheel drive system. And it also changes the telemetry on the screen up the top. as you can see there, it's got your approach and departure angles. It's got the sort of waiting depth and the side-on angles, and it really shows itself as being an off-roader car, not just a city SUV. Now, while it's all well and good to talk about how good the Forester is as an off-roader, there's another thing to drive it. So I think we should do that. So, the new Subaru Forester X Sport. Well, it's transitioned into an SUV over the years, but it has transitioned into a proper SUV. So it's got the ground clearance to actually go off-road. It's got that symmetrical all-wheel drive system. It's got a dirt and snow mode, and then it's got a deep dirt or deep snow mud.
Deep doo-doos.
Yeah, so when you're really in the thick of it, you can still rely on your Forester.
Yeah, look, it's the Subaru is basically a brand that Kiwis love, and it really does tap into our adventurous spirit, and I say ours even though I'm obviously English, but it really does. So it's a go anywhere sort of attitude, and a number 8 wire and all that sort of stuff. Now right now we're on a forest road, as you know, and it's very bumpy and stuff like that, but I'm not shaking too much. The car's shaking a bit, but it's absorbing all of these ruts and corrugated sort of uneven roads like they're not there.
And on a day like today, when this road is not only loose gravel and stuff like that, but also wet, that all-wheel drive system helps keep the grip constantly. So we've been climbing now for the past minute or so with no issues at all.
None at all. And that's without even tapping into the X mode or the double X mode or whatever it is. And it is a comfortable ride, basically on or off road, which is great. On road, it does tend to boat a bit around the corners, but you're going to get that because it does have that, it does have the softer suspension for when you do travel on roads like this. So it is a trade-off when needs be, but there you go.
So that's the off-road part covered. Obviously, we know Subaru has a history of rallying and of, adventuring, and it's something that New Zealanders particularly like about the brand over here, which is why so often you'll see canoes strapped to the roof and bikes on the back of a Subaru, all of that sort of stuff. And this does have roof rails, by the way, so you can still strap your canoes to the top of it.
Look, to run through the normal stuff, visibility is amazing. The windscreen's massive. The door windows are huge. Even the side mirrors are great. There's lots of look around there. The seats are, look, they're comfortable to a point. I don't know. I'm struggling to find it to be perfect, to be honest, but that's all right. I think it's, if I was going on the long run down to the Mount to go skiing, I think it would sort of just slightly irritate me a bit. But other than that, I think around town it's fine, and it's probably me rather than the seats, to be honest. Steering is great, is positive. The traction is great as well. That synchronous all-wheel drive offers 60% to the front and 40% to the back, so it's always dragging itself forward, almost like a sort of semi-front wheel drive. And also when you want to go off-road, as you said, it just got those different dials to play with.
The other impressive bit of mechanics in here is, of course, that CVT transmission. I mean, just how they figured out to give it 7 steps is really surprising, and the fact that you can go into manual mode using the gear stick or using the paddles. And as you've heard just now, that 4-cylinder boxer engine has a really sort of different note to it, and max power is almost at 6,000 RPM, so it does really love to rev and get up high.
Yeah, it does sort of change gear, which is odd for a CVT, I agree. The other thing, but when you are on the road, on the main road, as you see, our voices are raised a little bit now. There is quite a lot of wind noise and road noise coming through. Actually, more wind noise than road noise. I would assume it's not majorly aerodynamic, and it is a blustery day, I give it that, and we are on actually it varies between some smooth as tar seal and there's open pore now, but it's, I don't know, the fun stuff is the fact of getting the revs up high, and then probably turning the stereo up and putting your favorite CD on, which would be what I would do.
While the conditions are pretty miserable outside, the Forester does a good job of keeping you, nice and toasty or nice and warm if you like on the inside. So it does have seat heaters. Both the driver and passenger front seats are 8-way adjustable as well. You've got a sunroof there and plenty of different ways to listen to your tunes as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Tons of data, like the data is everywhere, is coming at you. This sort of face recognition means that you can jump in and it'll adjust itself to 4 different drivers. Actually, you and 4 different drivers, I think. So you can actually, it's probably more welcoming than my wife when I come in. It'll recognize me better than that will. Well, that's probably a different story anyway. Also, it'll tell you if you're dozing off or if you're yelling at the kids or stuff like that. It does make sure that you've got attention going through.
And while, some of the buttons do tend to be quite busy down the middle here and on the side as well, what Subaru have done, and thanks to that orange color highlights all throughout, is the fact that they've used that to point out all the important knobs and buttons that you need. So the orange is not only there for style and for the X Sport badge, but also for, I guess, a safety and practicality reason as well.
Having this new platform underneath this sort of global platform that they've gone with, it does give you more options as far as which Forester you go for. So you can actually have the more regular, probably the sort of baseline, or you can go for the Sport or the Premium, which has got a little bit more leather. Or there's also, I think there's going to be an electrical option as well. So you can either go from a sporty or a regular to something more efficient. Depends on what your flavor is.
In terms of flavoring, I know that the previous X Sport model had received a few complaints from people not liking the orangey bits, but obviously Subaru have listened to them and then stuck with the orange, which I think is a really good idea, because on my passenger side here, it can look quite plain with all the black plastic and material around, but it's nice to see the highlights of that orange stitching just going through the door card and the dashboard as well. It changes things up and keeps things a bit fresh.
And the other thing is the fact that there's so much room. There's in the back seat, there's tons of room for kids to stretch out their legs and stuff like that. And also, if you are going on an adventure, there is certainly plenty of space up top, space in the back for just carrying whatever you want, and enough room for, your flat pack furniture to meet with your flat 4 engine that sits really low and helps with the low center of gravity. So there you go.
On the other hand, both of us here, we're sitting pretty high, and it just goes to show that even if we were a foot taller, we'd still have a lot of headroom there, even though it's got a sunroof. Imagine that.
I do imagine trying to be a foot taller just to be a regular sized person. Would be a dream of mine. So there you have it, the new Subaru Forester X Sport facelifted 5th generation orange car. There's so much going on, and actually it's the sort of mixture between a family wagon and an SUV and just a good go anywhere, do anything sort of attitude. I like it. It's a break from the norm, and also it's a break from the cars we generally have driven, and I think it's a really nice change.
While a lot of things are different with this new model, as Dave just pointed out, it's still the same old Subaru Forester at the end of the day that we Kiwis know and love. So that's pretty reassuring.
Kiwis. Love it. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe. We will be looking and making sure that you do. And because we've got a car that can go and find you now. There you go. And see you on the next adventure. See ya.